Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the Battle Cats Beginner's Guide. I left you in the previous episode, if you're watching this as a series, and still in the previous episode if you're not, talking about where we take the direction of this series after the craze cats started to get a little bit more difficult for us to demonstrate in the form of a tutorial. Things haven't really got any easier. I consulted the greatest Battle Cats minds around, and they essentially agreed with what I was thinking, which I guess is a good thing. At least I wasn't completely off the track. There is no way for us to really do crazed fish now. For us to do crazed fish, we need a critical hitter, because we could do it really slowly in a way of brute forcing metal enemies, which means you just don't use criticals but just a 1 damage hit over and over again. But the stage has an actual proper enforced time limit after which you're just gonna die. So we can't do that. To get a critical hitter, no gacha, we need to do the red cyclone, but you can't equally do the red cyclone no gacha, which means that whichever way we go at this, we need some gacha. Now, if you're playing Battle Cats normally, I could probably assume you've rolled a lot of gacha already. I've obviously staved away from it as far as I possibly can, but now comes a time where we actually need some units with special qualities that will help us be able to beat levels. Now, I'm going to be spending my rare tickets specifically. If you're spending rare tickets that you just happen to have or have exchanged from maxed utilities and things like that, don't spend them in this way. Spend them on an Uberfest, for example. The reason being that in those, the chance of getting an Uber from a ticket goes from 5 to 10%, and you're going to want Ubers. But for the purpose of this being a guide, I don't want Ubers, so I'm not doing it in an Uberfest. What I really want is rares to still try and make it as applicable as possible, even though people aren't necessarily going to have the stuff, but then hopefully I have a range of stuff to show you different alternatives so that at least one thing will be something that you have. Another purpose of this is to raise user rank. That's another thing I need to do, because you may remember when we rolled very briefly, I got Bishop Cat. To be able to do the red cyclone, you can do it very easily with Bishop Cat's true form. But to be able to get the true form of that, I need a user rank of 1200. So either way, I need some new cats to upgrade, and this is only probably going to mirror what you've been doing anyway, but we've left it as long as we possibly can. Now's the time where we need to actually do it. So I'm going to use my rare tickets because there's no guaranteed event on. There's no point in spending cat food. The first rare that we get is on my OG cat. And here is exactly what we need. Jurassic Cat is a critical hitter. Critical hits fairly decently often, and this is the sort of thing that we'll need to be able to beat the crazed fish. Now we're going to probably be able to do it in the time limit, but I'm still going to try and get some other rare cats to have a large base of them, so I can show alternatives and different strategies when we come to need to use gacha. Another on my OG, well that's quite unlucky, but that's just something you tend to happen. Wheel Cat, that's unfortunately another disappointment. Might be useful the further we go into the future, though unlikely. It's never really that good a unit. Now, Rover Cat. This is a brilliant one for Into the Future. This one is resistant to aliens, which means it can take quite a lot of damage before it dies. It's an amazing meat shield for Into the Future and Cats of the Cosmos, which follows on after it. So if you manage to get this one in a roll, that'll be brilliantly useful. Obviously, I'll try and not use it wherever possible, but we might end up having to. Juliet Cat. This is a super rare. It can freeze angel enemies. Not going to worry about that one though. Super rare. Best not to put it in tutorials. People are more unlikely to have that. Welterweight Cat. This one's good against zombies. If you have that, you could put it in your slot for zombie outbreaks. You can probably do fine off that. Actually, zombie outbreaks. Here's a little thing. When you're doing your zombie outbreaks, they'll just appear whilst you're playing the game, and you should go into them whenever you can, try and get them done. Eventually, you will defeat outbreaks in so many areas that you'll eventually get to the last area to defeat an outbreak in, the moon. And after you defeat an outbreak in the moon, you get an increase to your energy cap, which is great. The moon outbreak doesn't feature anything like a bun bun. There isn't a zombie bun bun, that doesn't yet exist as I record this. It instead features an enemy you won't see for a long time in anywhere other than here, Lord Gravy. And he's a zombie, he's a huge grave bloke, and he sticks his thumbs up and does a little bit of damage to you. He doesn't burrow, but he can come back to life. But really, if you just stack your dragons and your legs and your things like that, and just make sure nothing's creeping up behind you, the moon outbreaks can be fairly fair enough. And if you have an anti-zombie cat like this one, that's going to be of use to you. Pogo Cat. Now, I've had a lot of people asking about Pogo Cat in the Crazed Cat and Crazed Tank tutorials. This one is brilliant to true form if you can, because this true forms into Jiangshi Cat, which is a 240 money meat shield, a bit more than what you'd usually have, but actually works out as better value because it is guaranteed to survive a lethal strike. Whenever it's killed, it'll go ding, and it'll be back again. Bit like Slim Shady. That can work very well as a meat shield, so essentially you've got 2 meat shields in one slot, which helps make your slot making a lot more efficient. Another wheel cat, bit of a disappointment. I wouldn't skirt past the disappointment because there's going to be a lot of it. Might as well show it. Another on my OG. Now, as much as I don't like getting all these, never exchange them for XP. It's never worth it. Always put your cats together for plus levels as you would with your normal units. Oh, now I've rolled in Ultra Souls event, and this is one of the Ultra Soul Ubers. You can get one of the Ubers that are in the particular event which you're rolling in. There's a very low chance, and we just happen to have got one of the best Ubers in the entire game, which we are definitely not going to use because that's about the most unapplicable thing I've ever seen. But this incredibly powerful unit, cheap, decent range, does a huge amount of damage to Black and Angel enemies. If you're lucky enough to get this, you're sorted for quite a lot of the game. Stilts Cat. Not a particularly impressive cat, this one. This one can knock back angel enemies. Still useful for the user rank. Now, Witch Cat. This cat, not needing to be true formed, will be absolutely perfectly fine for the Red Cyclone because this one can slow red enemies. And if you can build up a stack of them, what you can have is a Cyclone, which obviously we'll get onto because I'm just talking about this in vague terms, one that will never get to your units, so it can't kill them, and you just sort of stay there and eventually kill it. Very powerful unit for that purpose. And Tin Cat, another not hugely useful unit. This one can knock back black enemies, but is never too reliable at doing so. Now, for the stuff you see floating around this storage, this is so I can keep my levels down to, again, make the tutorials work best for people as possible, so they don't need very high levels. So, for example, I got as many tank cats as I needed to get a razor, and then absolutely no more. We've got some utilities that we can trade in towards a rare-cat capsule, which is always a useful thing to do when you max them. And I'm going to keep the super rare and uber rare units safely in the storage and not unlock them. We shall not be using them. But obviously, equally, you definitely should. I'm going to upgrade my Jurassic Cat first then, make sure to get that to level 20. Won't be able to evolve it quite yet, I don't think. Not least because the thing about the user rank is because to evolve them, you need them level 30. To get a rare cat to level 30, you need 1,200 user rank. But this is fine as is. Also, I'm going to upgrade the Witch Cat, and that's made me run out of XP a lot sooner than I thought I would. But I can still farm XP, as you well know, by getting treasure and all sorts of stuff like that on into the future might be a good bet. Or, you know, XP stages. I misinterpreted on my OG Cat. It's not what I thought it was, and it's a lot more useful than I thought it was. On my OG Cat, actually evolves, if we can eventually get it there, to Magica Cat, and then after that, Thaumaturge Cat, which is actually incredibly useful. What it can do, as it says there, is weaken non-metal enemies, and in its true form, it's guaranteed to do so, which can be incredibly useful for enemies you don't necessarily have a big, strong Uber to be against, and works quite well in tutorials right up towards the end of the game because it is only a rare cat and can reduce the damage that you take by quite a lot. Anyway, I will gather some XP. I'm going to leave 10 rare cat tickets there and just try and upgrade what we've got at the moment. And then hopefully we'll have an increased user rank by the time we come back. Essentially, the message of this isn't really to do anything new. This is something you should have been doing anyway. It's just now recognising that this is the sort of time where we're going to start actually needing gacha units to be able to beat levels. But again, I'm going to try and minimise my use of them as far as possible and try and explain alternatives wherever possible. Another useful thing that you could be doing regarding XP hunting is a bit of Stories of Legend. I'm well behind where you could be at this point with the units that we've got, and I'm taking the opportunity to do a little bit of Stories of Legend during a half energy cost period, meaning of course I can do double the number of levels that I'd usually be able to. So now working through the second sub-chapter, and I'll probably make a way through quite a lot more so that we're in a more reasonable position and a lot more XP rich. Here I am in Mermaid Cove in Swimming Cats, and I'm just finishing off a little bit of a session of Stories of Legending. I've also been doing a bit of Into the Future, getting quite a lot of that done, getting a few treasures here and there, just making our way towards Into the Future Chapter 1 Moon, which is where we'll want to be relatively soon. And upon completing this, we should get ourselves a decent amount of XP, and that's going to allow us to do a few more upgrades, and then we can see where our user rank will put us. Although I was previously overzealously upgrading Jurassic Cat and such as fast as I could for specific purposes like the crazed fish, when you want to boost your user rank, the best thing you could be doing is upgrading everything on an equal plane. So for example, level 1 to 2 upgrade, level 1 to 2 upgrade, level 1 to 2 upgrade, and so on, like that. Because you'll be spending the minimal amount of XP possible, and it will be evenly spread to boost your user rank as much as possible. Because it doesn't matter what level upgrade you're doing, it's going to be a 1 increase in user rank. So I'm going to be going through them and doing this same thing until I run out of XP, and we'll see where that puts us. And there we go, we just so happen to manage to get every single one of them to a minimum of level 9. Some of them have evolved because of the plus levels, so our Wheel Cat is now Solar Cat, and our Onmoji Cat is now Magica Cat. Let's see where it's put us in user rank wise. We've broken into the 1,000 range, which is good news so far. It just means that we're going to have to continue going at the Stories of Legend and the Into the Future to get enough XP for us to start upgrading rare cats to level 30, where you will start to get quite a lot of advantage. And evolving our rare cats through cat fruit to their final form. This, nevertheless, with our Jurassic Cat, is going to put us in good stead for the next video, where we'll be taking on the crazed fish, which I believe, through conversations I've had, is probably going to be the last craze stage for a little while, before we do some other things first and then move back to them, because it gets a lot more complicated to do no gacha. But now we have our critical hitter, it should definitely be achievable, and I will join you then. Anyway, that'll do. It's not great that we had to resort to gacha, but that's just an uncomfortable truth we're now going to have to work with, and we're just going to have to see what alternatives arise when we use a certain cat in levels. It shouldn't be too much bother. This is going to open up more opportunities for us and make this account possibly a little bit more like your ones anyway. So on that, I will bid you goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed.